I'm so mad. I was talking for like 20 minutes, y'all, creating this video. And I'm actually shooting it on my phone. I opened my computer to record this video, and my computer was dead. And I really, really wanted to record it. And my phone doesn't want to stay and cooperate. I really wanted to record this today. But I was talking for like 20 minutes and I never pressed the record button. So I'm so salty. I was just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. I looked to see how long I'd been talking and I wasn't recording. So recording this on my phone. So I'm hoping the picture is clear, because I know sometimes on the phone the quality isn't as A1 as a computer or a camera. So today I wanted to dive into, I really wanted to record this video because of an incident that happened to me a few days ago. And I feel like I'm repeating everything that I just said for the last 20 minutes that didn't get recorded, but it's cool. So first of all, let's start off. There's a new app called Clubhouse. If y'all have not heard of it or are not familiar, I'll leave an article below that describes it more. It goes into more detail. So it's a voice-based app. It's kind of like a podcast type of thing slash a masterclass, where you can go into different rooms, and the rooms are based on different topics. So you could go into a room about how to become an entrepreneur, how to create funnels for your business, how to make it in the music industry, as well as people have debates on there, like, is Jay-Z better than Nas, whatever. So there's so many different topics. It started off as an app for like musicians and people within the music industry, and sort of evolved into this like this audio-based or voice-based app. I love it. I've been obsessed with it. And I was in one of the rooms. It was an ADOS room. And for those of you who are not familiar with ADOS, ADOS stands for American Descendants of Slaves, or American Descendants of Slavery. And so anyone who identifies as or is a descendant of enslaved peoples would be considered ADOS. So there are a lot of ADOS rooms on Clubhouse where people are talking about different topics. And I hopped into a room last week that was called like #NotMyFredHampton. And just to give a little backstory, there's been, I guess, a little bit of controversy. There's some people who are mad that Daniel Kaluuya, who is the Ugandan British actor who played in Get Out, he's actually playing the story of Fred Hampton. And Fred Hampton, for those of you who are not familiar, was a member of the Black Panther Party. He was actually assassinated. And the movie's basically about his life. And so there were people who, mostly ADOS people it seemed, were angry that Fred Hampton was going to be played by Daniel Kaluuya. And so it was an interesting room. They brought up also Cynthia Erivo playing Harriet. And I watched Harriet. I didn't read about the controversy, but apparently Cynthia Erivo, who is a Nigerian British actress, played Harriet Tubman last year or the year before that. Actually, I think it was last year. She played Harriet Tubman. I thought it was a great movie. But so apparently she said some problematic things about Black Americans before. So there were people who were angry that Cynthia Erivo, an African, was playing a historic ADOS figure, Harriet Tubman, and the same sort of sentiment is now being brought up regarding Daniel Kaluuya, an African, playing a historic Black figure. So there was a room on Clubhouse called Not My Fred Hampton, and in the room, someone had brought up the fact that Africans come to the US and take away jobs and opportunities from Black Americans. So I thought to myself, oh, this is a really interesting topic to explore, not from like Hollywood standpoint, because I don't want to speak on an industry I don't know a lot about. I'm not in Hollywood. I'm not an actor. So I don't really know about those experiences, but I think that in a larger like workplace or job context, it was interesting to explore. So I told my brother, let's do this room called Are Africans Taking Opportunities or Taking Jobs Away from Black Americans? So we started this group on Clubhouse. And let me just say, like, the room was jumping. Like, I've hosted rooms on Clubhouse before, and the rooms that I've hosted have been like 30 to 70 people. And this room had almost 800 people. That room was jumping. And let me tell you, like, Clubhouse, a big room on Clubhouse, since I joined about 3 weeks ago, a big room on Clubhouse has about 200 people. Like, that's considered a large room since I've been on. And our room had almost like close to 1,000 people, damn near 800 people. So it was a big room. It was jumping. And I have to admit, I made a mistake that I'm like, one huge lesson that I've learned is never allow anyone to moderate a room. Never give anyone the reins if you don't know them well. There were people who were moderating my room on Clubhouse that I had started with my brother. And I don't know what happened after I left the room and allowed people to moderate, because my brother had to go and a few of my close friends that were moderating had to leave, and I had to leave. And I had logged out of Clubhouse. And then I got a notification a couple of hours later that my Clubhouse account was suspended. And I was like, what? So I emailed them. Apparently, people were reporting the room. And my mistake was allowing people that I didn't know to run the Clubhouse room that I had started. So I didn't, and it was my fault. So I take full responsibility, but they suspended my account for a couple days. I'm back up now. If y'all are on Clubhouse, sidebar, you could find me at Janice J Nice. And I'll put my Clubhouse info in the description box. But anyway, so we had some really interesting discussions in the room. What I realized is another lesson that I learned is it's so important to really monitor who you're allowing to take part in the conversation. Because what I realized through that group was that a lot of people were part of the conversation and just wanted to be agents of chaos. They were not contributing anything positive to the discussion. And I'm a very solutions-oriented person where I think dialogue is so important. But I always, even when I do my workshops and stuff, I always try to bring actionable, how do we move forward from here type of strategies and solutions. And in the book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Paulo Freire says that dialogue is what is so vital when it comes to learning about oppressed people and moving forward to a point of understanding. And, he said dialogue is what's going to lead to education. So I think that when thinking about the question, are Africans taking opportunities and jobs away from Black Americans? There's hurt on both sides. And there were some people who shared some really impactful and vital stories about their experiences as Black Americans and how they felt like there is a African privilege or an immigrant privilege that allows Black immigrants to have greater access and opportunities than our Black American siblings. And I think that is very important to acknowledge. We can't act like there is not a privilege that coming here without that generational and intergenerational trauma brings you. In the book, one of the best books I've ever read, and I've talked about this book on my channel, about 4 or 5 years ago, I read the book Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome by Dr. Joy DeGruy. Amazing book, but what this book opened my eyes to was this idea of intergenerational trauma and the fact that the trauma and the pain that enslaved people were experiencing they were passing it down, and they're able to pass that pain and harm and trauma down throughout the generations. And there's been studies on intergenerational trauma. And this was not a concept that I was familiar with until I read the book. And so when we talk about solutions and how do we get to a point where Black Americans and Black immigrants can have collective healing, I think that there has to be an education on the part of Black immigrants. A lot of Black immigrants come to the U.S. without an understanding or an acknowledgement of the sacrifices that were put in by Black Americans, and by the Black Americans built the United States. So to come here and have your nose turned up to Black Americans, I feel like is just like so misguided and ignorant, because the only reason that I'm able to even be here talking to you on this here YouTube is because of the sacrifices that were made by Black Americans. So, I think it was really interesting, the conversation, and I was hearing some really important stories. And there was someone who came in, Agent of Chaos, who she came into my room and she was like, I think, what did she say? I don't think that there's any use in people telling stories. She was kind of diminishing and demeaning anecdotes. And I pushed back on that. And I was like, I think there's a lot of value in hearing people's stories and hearing people tell their experiences. And when you think about like what's going to move the needle and help people shift their mindset and their perspective, storytelling is a huge part of that. So I don't think we can discount the value of storytelling when it comes to healing the relationship between Black immigrants and Black Americans. I don't know what the answer to that question of are Black immigrants stealing Black American jobs is. I think that the consensus we all came to is that immigrants are occupying many jobs, and some people could argue that Black Americans and Americans, period, immigrants are occupying jobs that Americans would not want to work or would not be working. And that's a whole nother argument. But there were a few people who came into the room and said that they felt like the room was pushing an anti-immigrant rhetoric. My parents are immigrants. I would never push an anti-immigrant rhetoric, because the reason I'm here is because my parents immigrated here. But I think that there is something to be said about the spaces that I am occupying, that we are occupying as Black immigrants, and how we need to be more mindful of the access and opportunities that we have and the privilege that perhaps we have over our Black American siblings. And I think that, when we talk about how to move to a place of healing, I think that that's going to come with education on the part of Black immigrants who come to the U.S. You need to know Black history. And I think that I'm constantly learning, and I try to make an effort to be reading everything I can possibly consume so that I am well versed and I understand, because I think that's a vital piece of it, is the education. I also think that and I hope to see more Black Americans exploring the motherland and exploring Africa, because I think that what might surprise a lot of Black Americans is if you go back home, you'll see that Black immigrants, or Africans rather, and Caribbeans welcome you with open arms. And so I think that there is a perpetuation of this narrative that Africans hate Black Americans and Africans look down on Black Americans. There's some that absolutely do, and I'm not going to overlook that. But I also think that there is a lot of curiosity, I want to say, on the side of Africans who look at Black Americans, who come into, there is a level of privilege that Americans have. Having a passport grants you a certain level of privilege that I don't think we often think about or talk about. So I also hope that Black Americans are exploring and going deeper into their roots, learning the history, learning about Mensa Musa, the richest man on this earth, learning about the Haitian Revolution, and learning about all of these aspects of Black history and Blackness. And I think that this might be a separate video, but somebody said in the group, in the Clubhouse group, somebody said, Africans or first generationers shouldn't call themselves Black. Nobody's going to dictate what I call myself. I am Black. I was Black yesterday. I'm Black today. I'll be Black tomorrow. So, but I'm like going off into multiple tangents. But, I don't know what the answer is to the question of, are Africans taking away jobs from Black Americans? I would say it's not a yes or no answer. I would say it's much more complicated. And I would also say that I think immigrants as a whole, not just Black immigrants, but I think immigrants as a whole are occupying jobs and spaces that Americans and Black Americans would not want to be working. I don't know if it's as easy as a yes or no. Are Black immigrants taking away jobs from Black Americans? I don't know, but I think it opens up a bigger dialogue. And that's why I went with the spicier title, because I felt like it would open up a meaningful conversation. And I think that there has to be a lot of healing. There was a lot of pain in that room. And I don't think that there was enough listening. I think people came in, got on the stage and started saying things to stir up chaos without really consuming and listening to what each person was saying on the stage. And, I argue that Africans don't have that intergenerational trauma that Black Americans have. And someone on the stage shared with me, I think she said she was from Rwanda. And she was saying she grew up hearing stories of war and hearing all of these different stories of genocide. And so to say, oh, Africans come to the U.S. with a clean slate, she said, no, a lot of Africans have immigrated to the U.S. as refugees because they're from war-torn countries. So to overlook the experiences of Africans because there isn't that legacy of slavery, she felt like was insensitive to the experiences of people who are coming to the U.S. from war-torn countries. So I felt like definitely going to have more conversations like that on Clubhouse. I really enjoy Clubhouse. Even though I'm salty, I think I shouldn't have got suspended, but that's neither here nor there. Whatever, it was my mistake, my fault for letting people moderate a room that I did not know. And, but yeah, so I think that when we ask ourselves, how do we get to a point of collective healing between Black Americans and Black immigrants? I think that it starts with education. People immigrating to the U.S. have to understand and should learn. Every person who's in the U.S. should know about Black history, should know about the history of Black people in this country, but should also know about African history, because we are more than just the 401 years of being enslaved in the U.S. Black history is so much deeper than that. So I think that education is vital for Black immigrants coming to the U.S. should know about Black American history inside and out. And also, I think Black Americans should learn about and should make efforts to learn about African history. You came from Africa, so you should be learning about African history. There's so much to learn. The Haitian Revolution, all of these different countries, leadership in these countries, what happened in these countries. I need to learn. There's so much African history and outside of Cameroon that I need to be more well versed on. So I think that is important, the education piece. And the second is dialogue, because I think dialogue is what's going to produce long-term solutions and help us come to points of understanding. So I think dialogue will lead to anecdotes and storytelling, and I think storytelling is what creates empathy and helps us put ourselves in the shoes of other people. So I would say that when asking ourselves, how do we get to a point of healing, collective healing? I think it's education, I think it is dialogue, and I think it's storytelling. And I think through those three things, we will be able to develop greater solutions and talk about our needs and how do I heal? And maybe as a first generationer, I heal from being able to have conversations with Black Americans about how I feel they have caused me trauma. And I'm just speaking hypothetically because I don't feel like that. But I know that my parents definitely felt like they experienced a lot of pain and trauma at the hands of people that look just like them. And, that's when they realized all skin folk ain't kinfolk. But I think that this is a good point to leave off this video. I'm already at 16 minutes. And I just wanted to share that experience that I had on Clubhouse. Again, if y'all are on Clubhouse, let's link. My Clubhouse is Janice J. Nice. Also, I'm open to facilitating rooms. If y'all have any ideas, or moderating rooms, if you have ideas of rooms you would like to see me moderate, leave them in the comment section below. And I will definitely consider moderating, because I love having these sorts of conversations. And I think Clubhouse is dope for the opportunity to have these sorts of conversations. But I think that is where I'm going to leave off this video. And it is recording because I see the red going off. So if y'all have any questions, comments, statements, thoughts on this question, and I think I'm going to title this video as the same title of the Clubhouse room, please leave it in the comment section. Thank y'all for subscribing to my channel. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe to my channel. Please like the video and share with others that you think will find this video impactful. I love y'all, and I will check y'all out in the next video. Also, happy holidays. For those of you celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas. Today, when I'm recording this, is actually the first day of Kwanzaa. So for those of you who celebrate Kwanzaa, happy Kwanzaa. For those of you who don't celebrate anything, hope you're having an amazing holiday season. You're getting a lot of rest. And I will check y'all out in the next video. Thank you for listening to me, and I love y'all.